Good morning. How are you today? Well, it's pretty hot here. It hit 102 yesterday, according to my thermometer. I wasn't out walking. I was out, but I was just observing the temperature. And right now, it's in the 80s in the morning. It's going to hit 99 or 100 again today. So it's pretty warm. Under the trees, I guess I get a couple of degrees off, and there's no wind. So that's what it's like here. There's a parable of the cave that you probably are familiar with, maybe when you were younger in school. And what it basically is that people are looking at shadows on a wall, and they're locked into their seats, and their neck is held firm, and they can only see straight ahead. And behind them are those manufacturing these images and projecting these shadows on the wall. And for all intents and purposes, that's the truth and the reality. So when you have a guy like No Jacket Jordan, who said yesterday that he won't do anything about vaccinations or masks until the administration does something about the borders. And his argument, therefore, is that it's the people coming across the borders that are giving us this Delta variant and all these troubles. So in other words, don't take the vaccine, don't wear masks, don't distance, don't take precautions. It's hard to believe that these people think and talk that way, but they are the illusion makers. And daily, we circulate about 3 or 4 stories, and one side is illusion, one side is truth, one side is, disinformation, the other is basically science, at least when we're talking about the vaccines and the virus. Now, in the parable of the cave, one man escapes the thing around his neck, holding him, looking at the images, and he crawls up the corridor out of the cave into the light of day. And he recoils at first until he understands the reality as the light shows him what is true. And he goes back, he goes down the cave, and he tries to educate those, inform those who are in the cave, following the images, but he can't do it. They won't. They are locked into these images. That's kind of what we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis in America. And in the case of the, No Jacket and those people, we have some Americans who really believe, and they're so anxious, they're seeking extra shots, despite the fact that that protocol hasn't been approved for anyone except immunosuppressive. So we see that there are those who are alarmed, and then there are those who are not. And then we have hypocrites like Senator Rand Paul, whose wife invested in an antiviral drug to combat the virus that he, on a daily basis, discouraged us from believing was true. These guys are amazing. They really should be prosecuted for doing this, and maybe they will be, but the world has an epidemic of amorality, and in places where people could do something, we have moral cowardice. And this is a term that I first saw in a book about terrorism. Moral cowardice, not reacting to what's going on. So we have that situation going on. And looking at the incremental news elsewhere, let's take a look at what's going on with our criminal justice system, so-called. We have individuals out there saying they sleep better at night because they believe that the Justice Department is looking into the crimes of Trump. Really? That's wishful thinking. And guys like me who know, even from the days when I was an assistant U.S. attorney in New York, that you had to be very careful when dealing with Main Justice, because that was a funny factory. Things were created there that weren't created elsewhere in the entire justice system. So unless and until there's a subpoena revealed, or a person is seen marching to a grand jury, or there's a fight over producing documents, don't assume the Department of Justice is doing anything. It's just another venue for moral cowardice. That's all. And it drives me crazy that The two places where we hear the most about this stuff are as a result of private people's, agencies, entities seeking information under FOIA or something and revealing it. So we have Jeff Rosen, who is the acting AG, tell us about persistent efforts by Trump to basically create a coup. Why wasn't that revealed then, before January the 6th? It drives me crazy. And now we learn, because of more recent developments, that a congressman from Pennsylvania got together with Clark, a Department of Justice official, and they wrote, well, at least the Department of Justice official, Clark, wrote this letter to the Georgia legislature basically saying, you know, your election was corrupted and you better think twice again. And this is within days of Trump calling the Secretary of State for Georgia and telling him to change the vote count, giving Trump a one-vote win over Biden in the presidential election. So we hear about persistent pressure now. Why weren't we told about it when it really mattered? And there is no good answer for that. We can't choose to favor witnesses and ignore their misconduct. Being silent about this when it mattered is misconduct. And that's what we have to follow. Now, going back to the 2016 election, we find out that Rudy was interviewed in 2018, Rudy Giuliani, the rogue, and he was asked, well, how did you know Comey was going to do that? Were you talking to the FBI agents who you hired in New York, inactive agents? And he said, oh, no, I didn't know anything about that. I just made that up. You know, you're allowed to throw fakes in an election, meaning lie, and that's all I was doing. But it's a 52-page transcript, and it doesn't really explain how he happened to be absolutely right about it. And he claimed it involved other things than the Comey item, which is that he knew that Comey was going to reopen the Hillary investigation just weeks before the presidential election 2016 was finished. So how is it that they took seriously what he had to say? And the answer is, it was the Trump administration, perhaps. Now, we shouldn't be having investigations on the Hill or in the IG's office. We should have a grand jury. That's a real investigation. That's where we should be. That's where we should be going. So that's my thinking for the day. Watch out for the heat, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.